You are listening to SDO Isabela Radio-Based Instruction.
Learning never stops in Radyo Eskwela, your school on air.
Your partner in achieving fun learning experiences. Let's listen, enjoy, and have fun in learning mathematics. Stay tuned.
Hello Grade 8 learners! This is your school on the air in Mathematics 8 of Radyo Eskwela sa Isabela. I am Teacher Grace Season Natividad of Barukbuk National High School, Quezon District, your Grade 8 radio teacher. How are you, my dear learners? We are back again to our 6th episode for second quarter in Mathematics 8. Wow! As I can see, you are always eager to learn new things for this day. Before we start, be sure to have with you your learning kit as we progress with our discussion. You can also look for a place in your home where you feel comfortable and safe. But most importantly, prepare yourselves and listen carefully. This time, I know that you are now ready to learn for today's episode. Make sure that you have with you now the copy of your self-learning modules or learning activity sheets and your magic pen. For today's lesson, we are going to identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of an if-then statement. Evaluate the hypothesis and the conclusion of an if-then statement and determine the importance of correctly evaluating the truth value of a given conditional statement. Before we proceed to identifying the hypothesis and the conclusion, let us define first what a conditional statement is. When we say conditional statement, we can come up with a conclusion. A conditional statement or if-then statement is composed of two clauses, the if clause and the then clause. We can denote a letter for each clause, P for the if clause and Q for the then clause. The statement is in the form of if P, then Q. Conditional statements are formed by joining two statements P and Q using the words if and then. The P statement is called the hypothesis, the part of a conditional statement that follows if when written in if-then form. It is the given information or premise. The Q statement is the conclusion, the part of an if-then statement that follows then, when written in if-then form. It is also the result of the given information. If hypothesis, then conclusion. Remember that the words if and then are not part of the hypothesis and conclusion, so if we are going to identify the hypothesis and conclusion, do not include the word if in the hypothesis as well as in the conclusion. Do not include the word then. Now, let us define what a hypothesis is. Anyone? Very good. Hypothesis is a tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test its logical or empirical consequences. So, this is when we give condition. We often see the word if or sometimes the word when. So that is the sign that the next statement is the hypothesis. How about the meaning of a conclusion? Correct! Conclusion is the necessary consequence of one or more propositions takes as premises. So, from your hypothesis, there is a conclusion. From your hypothesis, what is the concept form or what is the possible result? What can you conclude out of the given hypothesis? That is the conclusion. Here are the following illustrative examples that will guide and help you to understand the lesson. For number 1, input, I studied for my math test. The output is, I got a good grade. So, using the if-then statement, the input is the hypothesis of the statement and the output is the conclusion of the statement. The answer is, if I studied for my math test, then I got a good grade. Number 2, the input is, it is raining. The output is, we need to use our umbrella. So, using the if-then statement, the input is the hypothesis of the statement and the output is the conclusion of the statement. The answer is, if it is raining, then we need to use our umbrella. Number 3, if a number is greater than 0, then the number is positive. Your P is, the number is greater than 0 and your Q is, the number is positive. So, the hypothesis is, the number is greater than 0 and the conclusion is, the number is positive. Number 4, getting enough sleep is good to your health. What can you observe from question number 4? All right, you cannot see the words if and then. It is not present in the given statement. You should also learn how to identify the hypothesis and conclusion even if the words if and then are not present in the given statement. So, from question number 4, getting enough sleep is good to your health. So, which one do you think is the hypothesis and conclusion? When we say conclusion, as what we have said while ago, that this is the possible result. Therefore, your P is getting enough sleep and that is your hypothesis and your Q is good to your health. So your conclusion is good to your health. You will now remove the word is. Number 5, all prime number are numbers with no other factors aside from 1 and itself. In this statement, what is the definition, then what can you conclude? So your P is are numbers with no other factor aside from 1 and itself, and your Q is all prime number. Now, in our example number 5, what is their difference in our previous examples? Correct! Not all the time is our hypothesis is in the first statement, or not all the time our conclusion is in the second statement. So in this example, our hypothesis is are numbers with no other factor aside from 1 and itself, and our conclusion, it is a prime number. Did you get it, class? That's awesome! Now, we can also evaluate the hypothesis and conclusion of an if-then statement. A conditional statement has a truth value of either true or false. For us to know the truth value of the statement, we are going to use the truth table. To show that a conditional statement is false, you need to find only one counterexample where the hypothesis is true and the conclusion is false. The truth table shows that if the value of your P is true, the value of your Q is true, then P implies Q is also true. If the value of your P is true, the value of your Q is false, then P implies Q is false. If the value of your P is false, the value of your Q is true, then P implies Q is true. If the value of your P is false, the value of your Q is false, then P implies Q is also false. Let's try the following examples. Number 1. If I studied for my math test, then I got a good grade. The answer is, the hypothesis of a conditional statement is the phrase immediately after the word if. The conclusion of a conditional statement is the phrase immediately following the word then. The hypothesis is, I studied for my math test, and the conclusion is, I got a good grade. When the hypothesis is true, the conclusion is also true because when you study, you will get a good grade. Therefore, the truth value of the conditional statement is true. Number 2. If it is raining, then we need to use our umbrella. The answer is, the hypothesis is it is raining. The conclusion is we need to use our umbrella. In the given statement, the hypothesis is true and the conclusion is true because when it is raining, we need to use our umbrella. Therefore, the truth value of the conditional statement is true. To summarize our discussion for this episode, answer what I have learned on page 10. I will read the problem and give the correct word or words that will make the statement correct. For number 1, is composed of two clauses, the if clause and the then clause. We can denote a letter for each clause P for the number 2 and Q for the number 3. The statement is in the form number 4. Conditional statements are formed by joining two statements P and Q using the words if and then. The P statement is called the number 5 and the Q statement is the for number 6. A conditional statement has a 4 number 7 of either true or false. For us to know the truth value of the statement, we are going to use for the number 8 that will help us to determine the truth value of the conditional statement. The statement will only be false when the hypothesis is for number 9 and the conclusion is for number 10. Now, let's give the correct answer. For number 1, conditional statement or if-then statement. 2, if clause. 3, then clause. 4, if P, then Q. 5, hypothesis. 6. Conclusion. 7. Truth value. 8. Truth table. 9. True. 10. False. I hope that you got all the correct answers. Alright, let's give ourselves a resounding applause. And here we are again, our grade 8 learners. I am sure that you are now ready to apply of what you have learned this afternoon. I know that you can do it. You are going to write your answer in your quiz notebook. This is the direction for Activity 1. Numbers 1 to 3 on page 8 entitled, Let's Write. Identify the hypothesis and conclusion of each of the following statements. Number 1, if two lines form right angles, then the lines are perpendicular. 2, if x plus 20 equals 32, then x equals 12. 3, if you are a third-year high school student, then you are a junior high school student. For Activity 2, true or false. Answers number 1 to 3 only. The direction is evaluate the hypothesis and the conclusion of the conditional statements. Example, if pigs can fly, then 2 plus 5 equals 7. The hypothesis pigs can fly is false, and the conclusion 2 plus 5 equals 7 is true. Okay, these are the questions. Number 1. If the measure of the acute angle is 30 degrees, then fish can walk. Number 2. If 148 is divisible by 8, then 148 is also divisible by 6. Number 3. If the sum of the interior angles of the polygon is 540 degrees, then it is a hexagon. For Activity 3, let's evaluate. Answer only numbers 1 and 2. This is the direction. Evaluate the following statements. Use the truth table. For number 1, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. Number 2, if Anna studies for her test, then she will pass the exam. Now start answering and your timer starts now.
Mare, narinig mo na ba ang tungkol sa online distance learning ng DepEd? Ano ba ito? Ay oo, Mare. Ang online distance learning ay isang pamamaraan kung saan maihahatid ng mga guro ang kaalaman para sa mga anak natin sa tulong ng teknolohiya gaya ng internet, laptop, computer, at cellphone. Ganun ba, Mare? Oo, Mare. Hindi magkakasama at magkakaharap ang mga estudyante at mga guro. Maaaring matuto ang mga bata sa pamamagitan ng online na pagkatuto. Isang mensahe mula sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.
Time's up! Let us now check your answers. For Activity 1, number 1, the hypothesis is two lines form right angles. Conclusion, the lines are perpendicular. Number 2, hypothesis is x plus 20 equals 32, conclusion is x equals 12. Number 3. Hypothesis is you are a third-year high school student. Conclusion is you are a junior high school student. For activity 2, number 1, hypothesis is true. Conclusion is false. Number 2, hypothesis is false. Conclusion is false. Number 3, hypothesis is true. Conclusion is false. And for activity 3, number 1, P is true, Q is true, and P implies Q is true. Number 2, P is true, Q is true, and P implies Q is true. Everybody count your score. Did you get a perfect score? Congratulations for a job well done. I hope that you have learned a lot from our session today. Tune in again in our next episode. Before we end up, I would like to share a quote from Mark Victor Hansen said that, "Don't wait until everything is just right. It will never be perfect. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and less than perfect conditions. So what? Get started now. With each step you take, you will grow stronger and stronger, more and more skilled, more and more self-confident, and more successful. And we should always remember, study hard, do good, and the good life will follow." On behalf of the SDO Isabela RBI production, this is Teacher Grace Season Natividad from Barukbuk National High School, Quezon District, your radio teacher for School on the Air for Mathematics 8. Thank you, Grade 8 learners, and God bless us all.
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang may iwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela!